How long have you spent inside prison?
14, around that.
14
13,
years.
yeah.
It was high profile. It was on a need-to-know basis. Not every police officer had access to information, and that was because of the violence of the offences, and they called you things like one of the most violent gangs in Sydney. And
Top secret that
The details are secret for years.
A court
until
ordering the end of a
more than
media
33,000
blackout.
people
They were violent in nature. They operated.
leading to
The deadly
4,000
14 years. Obviously, you were in and out a few times for similar crimes, or?
Yeah. No, my last one now was 8 years, so I pretty much did the big sentences.
Okay.
But yeah, violent offences. Yeah. When I'm reading these headlines and seeing us in the news and listening to all this stuff, I was like, who are they talking about? No, that's not us.
Okay, let's go.
Business changed my life, man. Business changed my life completely. It's the language of the world. Make the correct decision at the right time and make that decision count. If you're an avid learner and you have a love for learning, then I think the answer's just around the corner. This is the first time really in my life that I can say next year I'm free in 16 years.
Welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on. Hey, I noticed the other night you're at that Run It Straight.
Yeah.
What's it called? Run
Nation.
Nation.
Yeah.
It's only their second one, I think, isn't it?
Second one.
Yeah.
It's good, bro.
It looked unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Those boys are crazy.
Yeah. I didn't even know it was on. I saw you posting. I think it was did they do a weigh-in?
Yeah, they had a press conference, weigh-in, everything before.
So it's it's a proper event.
Yeah, it's a proper event.
Yeah. I saw the weigh-ins, I think you posted maybe in your story, and I was like, bro, is there a fight night on? It looks mad.
Yeah. Oh, bro, it's better than a fight night.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Amazing.
It's a pretty scary sport, but you're taking the craziest part of footy
Yeah.
and just doing it one after the other.
Yeah, I think I went to both of them. I've been to the first one, the second one, but they had training camps for it, so like proper technique and hitting technique. So they try to mitigate as much as they could, but
It can't be good for you. A lot of head banging.
if you cop a knock, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's contact sport.
Also, but in footy, if you're playing on a field, right, one person's trying to tackle you, but the person being tackled is trying to get away. You're not both trying to hit each other normally, right? So the hits aren't as bad.
Yeah.
But when you just put it face to face, it kind of started as a pub game,
Backyard footy.
Yeah, backyard footy, but you weren't trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Whereas this is I'm going to hit you as hard as I can with proper technique.
Yeah, no, it's
I wonder what their insurance is like.
yeah. Well, I think the players in this one they got health cover and everything through it, so it was
You can tell they've thought about it.
yeah, it's proper production, proper business. I think I can see that going global.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's way better than the slap stuff they're doing, power slap, whatever. That's I don't get into that. It's not as entertaining for me.
Yeah, no. The guys behind Run Nation, they're professionals. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think they're only just starting.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those things that it just took somebody to do it properly. There's a bunch of smaller YouTube channels or Instagrams that are doing it, but these guys were and I think their Instagram only started in November or something. When was the first one you went to?
Oh, yeah, not long ago, a couple of months, maybe the end of the last.
Yeah, so it was, because their Instagram's
That's fresh.
a few months old.
Yeah.
And they're 180,000 followers on it.
Yeah, no, they're like I said, they're professionals, the people behind that.
Yeah.
They saw the concept and knew exactly how to do it.
Yeah, you're not going to catch me in there anytime soon.
No.
Look, for their second event, I can tell already by the competitors, they need some separate categories in there because I didn't see any white boys going up against these big islanders, no way.
There was one Aussie boy, Benny, from out west, and he won. He won the first one. He's racing the first one, and he won the second one too.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah, of course, there's some big boys that are in for it, big footy boys, but you can see where the dominance is going to come from.
Yeah, for sure.
Give the big guys the ball and see how they go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on the website because I'm dying to go to one now, but it seemed like there wasn't a huge amount of, the tickets would sell out quick.
Oh, it was sold out, yeah. They sold out straight away, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
As far as I was aware. I got given some tickets myself by one of the people behind it, which was good. But I think in terms of the sales, I know it was sold out, but I don't know how quickly it sold out.
Yeah, there were some big names there. Obviously, marketing-wise, they've brought some people in to attract the eyeballs because there was definitely some big names there.
Yeah, and they're all interested in it too. All loved it. So, how could you not love it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we just had UFC in Sydney as well, and I'm sure it's sold out and all the rest of it, but the tickets are so expensive. You know, it's always been like that with UFC, especially in Australia.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get tickets to.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to do bodyguarding at a UFC once.
Yeah.
And it actually broke my heart because I met my hero, Dana White. They say, don't meet your heroes yet. But I'm a pretty bogan kind of, you know, my language is not perfect English. And he like couldn't understand me, eh? He kept looking to his mate like, the fuck's this guy saying?
Yeah.
Because they're used to American accents. And obviously he speaks to Aussies all the time, but yeah, it kind of broke my heart. So it was like, this was the chance to talk to this guy. And he was basically like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying, bro. Kind of broke my heart.
It leaves some sort of impression on you.
Yeah. Have you been to a UFC?
Nah, never, no.
It is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Huge events. I mean, the Australian ones aren't going to be as good as going somewhere in America.
Of course, yeah.
Imagine going to like that dome.
Mm.
You know, they'd be like mental.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be a good production.
That made me think actually then, can you travel at the moment?
Nah, I'm stuck in New South Wales at the moment.
Till when? Next year, I think I heard you say in a video.
Yeah, the end of next year. So just under 2 years. Just under 2 years now.
Yeah. Is that something you count down? Is that...
Well, yeah, it is now. Now it is. But yeah, I think that video I was saying, you know, this is the first time really in my life that I can say next year I'm free in like 16 years. So first time I can actually say next year I'm done with everything, I'm free. So I'm counting down to it because there are opportunities in the state, opportunities abroad that I have been approached for, and I just can't do them at the moment. So I'm starting to feel it a bit restricted. I've got family overseas that are not well. I want to be able to get over them, to see them. So I'm starting to feel it a little bit now. I think I'm at that stage in my life where I'm just put it behind me. I just want to get on with my life and explore the world and take my family on holidays and see my family overseas and explore all the opportunities of the world. So, yeah, I'm definitely feeling it at the moment.
Yeah, sure you feel like it's that last thing. Last thing before you can let go of it, you know?
That's it, man. Like it's not just under 2 years to go, and then it's all, it's all up from there. Exciting times.
Now you can go to Melbourne, you can go to Queensland. We were talking about that before. You said you've only been to Melbourne once. Yeah. I don't suggest going to Melbourne. No. I'm sure as it gets closer, you'll start planning where the first holiday is, but...
Yeah. For now, it's just focus on backyard. So
Yeah. So just, I guess, to rewind a bit, so I've watched some of your older content. I don't like to watch too much of people's content because I want to kind of ask my own questions instead of getting caught up in things you've already been asked. But one of the things I heard you say was growing up, and I don't want to get the line wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but growing up, you made a comment like you were not wide enough to hang out with white boys, but you weren't dark enough to hang out with Islander boys. Do you think that was maybe one of the earlier problems that kind of drove you to find who you are and maybe took you down the wrong road?
I don't think it was a problem that took me down the wrong road. I think it was just added to being able to fit in wherever I needed to fit in as a young bloke. So, you know, I wasn't bound to one group. So I sort of could float between different groups who were doing different activities, whatever it may be. And, so I didn't really fit ever into one typical group. So I don't think it really contributed, but I was definitely aware of it. I think it definitely made me feel, you know, there was an emptiness inside of me because of that. You know, as a young bloke, you just want to belong. So I definitely had an emptiness, bit of a scratch that needed to itch to just find my people. And I mean, you know, like I said, I just floated around and belonged as much as I could in that group for as long as I was there before, you know, moving to another one or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And, you know, those friends that you've had from way back when, are they still people you talk to today or?
Yeah, I've got a couple of very few friends that I, you know, went to school with, friends that I played footy with. I do have a few of them, probably count them on one hand that I speak to still, but that's life, you know what I mean? And even them, they don't even really speak to people that we played footy with. They don't speak to people that we went to school with. Everyone just gets on with their life, you know, so I don't think it's purely because I went down a different path. I think it's just everyone's living life, families, kids, jobs. Some of them moved out of Australia. You know, when you're in school or when you're playing footy, that's your environment. You know, you're immersed in it. And then once that's done and you got the whole world, no one really wants to just hang around in the backyard anymore. So
Yeah, I was telling you earlier when I was growing up, my dad worked in youth detention. And so, growing up, I guess maybe that was his scare tactic. I don't know, telling us the stories of the kids he was trying to work with. But there was always a common trend across the stories of people trying to find where they belong and getting misled through that. Because when you go for a while not feeling like you belong or not having people to lean on and you finally find someone, you're going to start depending on them. And if they start saying, hey, come do this with me or do that with me, the peer pressure, I guess that you call it, is probably going to start forming your actions as well. And, I don't think anybody's born a bad person.
No.
And I think everybody's got different intentions, but it's that seed's planted by someone to start you down whatever direction you go. And either it stops early or it doesn't. I think I heard you say as well your first time in prison wasn't like a scary moment for you. It was like, this is just part of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Like I grew up, that was my, from my late teens, mid-teens really, probably about 15, that was sort of the way, 15, 16, I would sort of identify myself, that was that internal. I wouldn't really portray it out, but that's how I felt inside. So I knew whatever I was doing, that was always going to be probably part of the plan. Not the plan, but part of the picture. And it's sort of, it wasn't horrible, it wasn't like a big, crazy moment that I've made this big mistake, what have I done, and all this sort of stuff. It was just, all right, this is what's going on, and it's part of the game, this is how we deal with it, and, it's expected in a way.
Yeah, I guess, you understood the risks.
Yeah, of course.
You know how the game worked, and I'm sure you had friends that had been in and out as well.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a bit of street cred that goes with it, that you see it as like it gives you a bit of credibility,
Yeah, absolutely.
So how old were you the first time you were arrested? 18?
Yeah.
Okay, so straight into adult prison, you never went to any juries though.
Yeah.
And how long was that first time for?
I got sentenced to 5 years for that first one.
And served the 5?
Yeah.
Wow.
For armed robberies.
That's a long time for a first fresh 18.
Yeah.
And then, and so you were out at 23?
23.
And how long till something happened that put you back again?
About a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was still 23, so just under a year.
And do you think that mentality of like, this was just part of like you said, not the plan, but part of what it is to take this life? Do you think that contributed to the fact that you only went 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, my first sentence, my first taste of prison was just a chance for me to sharpen my tools, pretty much. I just committed. I was committed. I did get out after it, my daughter was born while I was inside, so I got out. I had a little girl there. My partner was still there with me. So I had a family unit at home, so I did come home. I told myself, you've already done this now, you've done a sentence. You can wipe that off, the bucket list. Get on with life. So I did try and, I got a job driving trucks and doing party hire, popping up marquees and all that sort of stuff at events. Didn't last long. But I just, when you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, again, with a job like that, you're working 6, sometimes 7 days a week, up at 5, home at 7 p.m. You're not getting great money. That's not life to me, like that's not life. Who was I trying to impress? Who was I doing it for? You say you want to stay out of jail for your family. You want to stay out of jail too, but I'm not there for my family. I'm not present in my family unit anyway. So that was never going to be sustainable. And I knew that. I was just trying to do the right thing. And that had an expiration date, which I could see.
Yeah, it's hard to convince yourself this is better.
Yeah.
This is the better option.
100%.
Especially when you, like you said, you had a family. So you still with that partner now?
Yeah, still with her.
Wow. So you guys got together young?
Yeah, teenagers, yeah.
Wow. And you're still together now?
Yeah, still
That's unreal.
together.
You must have a bond that's probably very unique, to go through so much together.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's very powerful. We sort of came to know each other. We grew together through, so many years in prison. So it's an interesting bond because we were so good at being distant. It's not like it's just a very, very different, special, powerful bond. that people probably wouldn't really understand it. So I'm blessed, super blessed that, you know, that she's stayed around. And I guess people sort of say, like, why would she stay? You know, one, yes, she was pregnant. We had kids. But I mean, also I was a good partner to her as well. You know, even when I was out, I was doing the right things by her. So there's a lot of stuff behind closed doors that made sense for her to stay as well. You know, she knew who I was as a person. She saw my potential. She saw my heart, the way it was. So it may not make sense to a lot of people. And a lot of people, you know, especially in jail, you hear so many horror stories of people in their relationships. You know, you hear boys going crazy over their missus outside and things like that. But yeah, I never had a doubt. We just had a bond from day one. So yeah, it made sense for her to stay with me, and she's still with me now. We just had another baby 6 months ago.
You got a few now, huh?
Yeah. So which was good because, you know, I never got to experience that in my life. You know, delivering one of my children or raising them, first steps, first words, first days of school. Never had any of that before. So this is my chance now to experience that with my new daughter, and I'm completely obsessed with the process. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. So I'm super blessed that I've got the opportunity to have these experiences. I
saw a video you posted. It was quite a while ago, and I'm a dad now. I've got a little 2-year-old girl, and being a girl dad's different than being a boy dad, I'm sure. I'm not a boy dad yet, but there was a video you posted, and it really got to me actually, because it was a recording of your daughter opening a present, but you were only listening to it through a prison phone, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, like, fuck, that would be hard.
Yeah.
You know, like, while you're in there, there's a lot you're going to miss, but, you know, like, I get upset when I don't see my daughter for a week and I hear her voice calling out daddy on the phone, you know, like, was that one of the few things that was a bit harder to control your emotions with in prison, or you just, again, was just like, this is how it is?
Yeah, man, look, like, you know, this sort of conversations is just, people would not understand. And I probably, my explanations don't ask for understanding either. But that was just the way it is. You know, like my daughter knew me, and I knew my eldest daughter through prison. I held her for the first time in prison, heard her speak to me for the first time on a jail phone call. You know, that was our relationship. And I met her through jail, and yeah, you know, for the first time she's older now, and sit down and have a conversation with her. So yeah, that's just the way it was for me. You know, I didn't get attached to that process. I didn't beat myself up over it. There's obviously parts of me that you know, I'm never going to get back, and they're going to always be empty. But I'm just the kind of person, you just can't cry over spilled milk. You know what I mean? The milk spilled, just wipe it up and fill up another cup. So that's just the way I look at life. You know, I've had so many moments like that of spilled milk in my life. If I was to cry over every cup, I'd be a mess. So I guess just from growing up, I already had that sort of resilience, already had that expectation upon myself, had that thought process. And I mean, it is sad because, you know, I probably don't give myself the understanding or the acknowledgement of the gravity of what I missed, and how that would probably affect someone. But, you know, it works for me. And I just feel sorry for my daughter, because I think there's, you know, she sees the way I am with our little daughter now, and probably feels like I didn't get that, you know. So that's something that I try and patch up the best I can with her. But, you know, just being present now, and there's nothing I can do about it except just be the best dad I can be now, and that's what I strive to do. So hopefully it all, you know, just wipes out the past in a sense.
Yeah, I think your description to yourself of what being the best dad means changes over time as well. I'm sure there was a time where you thought being the best dad meant being a provider, and whatever means you had to do that had to be done.
Absolutely.
And maybe now that you're in business and you're making, you know, a living a different way, you probably have changed how you see that. But that's everything in life. You always change your opinion on how something should be done.
Yeah, for sure.
There's always a million ways to skin a cat. Yeah,
like that's exactly right. I used to think that too. You know, I wouldn't justify it, but in the back of my mind, I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm building a future for my family. I'm doing this. I'm doing the way I know how, the way I'm good at, the what I like to do. And I just to myself, I'm building a family. I'm building a legacy. I'm building an empire, building a future, all these sort of things. And yeah, now over time, I've realized that just because, they might have everything that they need, they might have a, financially stable, whatever it may be, future, but there's nothing more important than just presence and being a present dad in a life. I grew up without a dad in my life, and I could say, didn't really make a big deal, but probably it did make a big deal. If you have a look at my life to today, it obviously played a significant part. So definitely now that I'm older, now that I see the way that my baby daughter looks at me when I walk in a room, the bond, the connection, the energy, I definitely think that being a present dad 100% is so much more important than just being a provider.
So there's been times where you just continued on with how you're doing things after getting out of prison. This time around, has that changed? You've gone, there's no way I would do something that puts me back there again because you now have a different perspective on being a dad and those things, or?
Yeah. That will definitely be a part of it, that I'm a dad now. I need to be present. My kids are my first priority now, always, which unfortunately I would like to say was always the case, but clearly wasn't. Definitely now. But I think I'm not going to say it's because of all that stuff, because to me that would all be sort of external. The reason why I move the way I do now is purely me, internal. So it's definitely a factor that I have to be present in my kids' lives. But it's not a determining massive factor, it's more me, it's who I am now.
So you've been out of prison now 12 months or a bit more?
A bit more, yeah, about 16 months now.
And you're 33.
Yeah.
So how long have you spent inside prison?
Oh, maybe 14, around that.
14
13,
years.
yeah.
And where did you serve that time?
Everywhere.
All over the shop?
All over the place, yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Do you prefer to stay in one spot?
Yeah, I prefer to stay in one spot. Yeah, I tend to land in prison for a few years. So when I do land there, I do definitely prefer, because I'm that person that's got so much stuff, and I hate moving because you lose so many things, and I sort of get super comfortable, So when you up and move, like we were saying off air, you've just you're moving, and that's crazy on the scale of moving houses, but the emotional move of moving prisons is that's as comfortable as you can be in a place with no comfort, and then you have to up and move. It's just
a whole new crowd.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't mind. It's new boys, I grew up in the system, so I have friends in every centre. Just to go and be with new boys is the good thing for moving. Unless you're going to Sydney, if you're coming back to Metro, it's obviously the best because you're going to get visits more frequently, and there's just so much more happening in Metro, so much more exciting than out country. But I used to hate moving around.
So through this 14 years, obviously you were in and out a few times for similar crimes, or?
Yeah. No, my last one now was 8 years, so I pretty much did the big sentences.
Okay.
But yeah, violent offences. Yeah.
I saw you share maybe it was either a photo or a voiceover of a news clipping of them saying something along the lines of, it was obviously during the sentencing that it was high profile. It was on a need to know basis. Not every police officer had access to information, and that was because of the violence of the offences. And they called you things like one of the most violent gangs in Sydney, and it had to be dismantled and this stuff. When they were saying that, did you think that's not us, or was it like, yeah, we are?
Yeah, no, look, 100%. And it's one of those things that you've actually. The reason I laugh is because you took the words right out of my mouth. I used to say, or we used to say, we're just mates, we're just the boys. These guys, who are they documenting? But I guess it's like anyone when they're subject of these big, headlines. To us, we were young, in early 20s. Some of the boys a bit older, but it's sort of we were just the unit. We used to play touch footy together, soccer together, basketball. So whatever happened after hours was was a different topic, but the bond that we had was like just good mates, brothers, you know. So I guess that's why we used to think we were just the boys, because to us that was our bond, but to the authorities, they didn't see that. They just saw the activities.
They didn't understand what else is going on there. That there's a bond and a friendship and a support system. And
well, I mean, the good doesn't really outweigh the bad, does it?
Not always.
They don't have to understand that. But personally, to ask me the question, that's exactly how I thought. I thought we're just the boys, you know. When I'm reading these headlines and seeing us on the news and listening to all this stuff, I was like, who are they talking about? That's not us.
Yeah, I guess you've got a whole different perspective, but also the news is making a story, so they're only going to go on facts and what they can grab, right? And I'm assuming there was a pretty long process with court and all kinds of stuff. I think you're saying you're on remand for quite a long time as well.
6 years.
6 years not really knowing your fate, right?
Yeah, 6 years sitting in a cell waiting to go to court.
How come it took so long?
Complexity of the case. Had a lot of co-accused, a lot of charges. The investigation was spanning years. So for me, they only had about a year of an investigation on me. I sort of got straight out into an investigation, but because of the complexity of the case, they had so much to go through. So many charges, that were coming. Every year I was getting new charges. They'd come and put a new charge on me, which would start the process over again. So it's just the complexity of the case, and I think probably, there was just no real clarity around what anyone wanted to do, whether it be the defense or the prosecution. It was just it was just a circus. It was an absolute circus to go through. So sometimes they had no idea what was going on. There was no, the authorities and the prosecution weren't on the same page sometimes, so they didn't know what was going on. Judges were leaving, coming and going, and we were just sitting there waiting, yeah. So
tell me if I get it wrong, but I think the reason it is kind of takes so long and it's so complex is because when there's co-accused in the case, they're really, when you boil it down, trying to decide who's responsible for what part of the crime, right? And
not anymore,
because some might get more sentencing than others.
It used to be like that until they brought in this thing called joint criminal enterprise. So now it doesn't matter who does what in the crime. Everyone is a co-accused in the matter. That comes down to the sentencing process. So the actual court procedure doesn't matter for that anymore. That's strictly for the sentencing matter on that day. So then you'll be sentenced on your roll. But the court, the whole proceedings of the matter doesn't matter. Everyone's alleged to be involved in the crime. Doesn't matter what you do or how it does it. Joint criminal enterprise puts you, or you on you what you're doing, and for whatever it may be. But because our thing was under, I guess, a criminal organisation, there was, we had different strike forces. We had a number of different strike forces from different agencies, all compiling their briefs of evidence and their investigations, and not all working together. So, we're waiting on these guys to do that, and there's this matter here and another matter there. And
some of your co-accused got a lot longer sentencing than yours, right?
2 of them never to be released. They're serving multiple life sentences. 2 of them are serving in the 20s, and there's 3 of us that got under 20. Yeah.
Wow. How does that feel to be one of the ones that got less, and some of your boys, they're never going to come out?
Yeah, look, that's just the way it is. That's the game. It's unfortunate. I mean, some of them, a lot of the boys in there now still have appeals going through, so they were found guilty, never pled guilty. So they're still fighting the process, which is why I don't talk too much about the details of the case, because they're still fighting for their life back. But for myself, yeah, look, they only had 12 months of an investigation on me as well. A lot of the charges were coming from years when I was in prison. So automatically I was disregarded in those matters. But look, I could have easily been doing a lot longer. I think the way that the case came out, I ended up, taking a plea deal. I think 2 of us took plea deals. We got offered a plea deal after 5.5 years.
So that deal would have been like time served in a short sentence to try and...
No, we still had time to go.
Yeah.
Still had time to go. But a couple of boys had beaten one of the bigger charges. There was some holes coming through in a couple of the other matters. So we sort of said, I approached my legals and I said, I don't really want to take a deal. I want to go to trial all the way. You know, I want to win. I want to get not guilty. You know, I'm going all the way with it. That was my mentality. You know, I've sat here for this long now. I'm not going to put my hand up to anything I didn't do. I'm not going to, you know, play the games. I'm going to stick it out and go to trial. And, you know, years went on. And that was still my mentality. I was going to trial, and then it came to about 5 years and my trial got listed for another 2 years. So that would have taken me to 7 years. And my lawyer came to me and he said, look, should we approach him for a plea bargain, see what we can get? I said, I'm not interested, but approach him. And they basically came back and said, nah, we'll see you in trial. So they wanted to sink us all as much as we wanted to beat it. So I said, sweet, you know, we'll just carry on. And then they came with some more charges. So they actually cracked our the old BlackBerry Phantom secure. We were probably the first case that got those devices cracked into. So they sent them overseas and got into a couple, which they came to see me. They alleged that a few of them belonged to me. And my lawyer said, look, let's just try and get this wrapped up, you know.
Before they get anything else.
Yeah, because it's just going to be another process. You know, there's going to be another year, another 2 years. And he goes, look, if we can get you on a deal that maybe you do, you know, 12 years, 11, 12 years, 10 years, by the time you get a trial, you're going to be doing 8 years anyway. He said, you know, you've been in the max, so you've spent how many years in segregation. He said, let's just try and get you a decent sentence, 10 years, non-parole, and then kick back in the minimum, the C-class. So, you know, at least you can get your weekends, your day leaves after a few years and have more contact with your family. And when he presented it to me like that, I sort of thought about it and I said, yeah, you know what? If the deal is okay, if my co-accused, if all the legals were on the same page and I wasn't affecting anybody by taking the deal, then I'd consider it. And that was the main thing to me. You know, I wasn't going to do anything that's going to affect anybody else. Obviously, you know, that's the code I was brought up on. That's the code I've taken for the rest of my life. So I did. We went through that process. They came with the deal. Didn't really like it. Legal sort of said to me, "Look, this is the best we're probably going to get. You know, what are you happy with?" I said, "I'll do 10." I said, "I'm happy to do 10." 10 to 12. I said, "Anything more than 12, I'll be appealing straight away. I won't be happy." Because obviously I know the matters. You know, I know the facts that they've presented, and I know the truth, and I know how they've presented it. So it's very easy to understand when you're involved. So I said, "I'm happy to do 10." And he said, "Okay, well, let's go back and forth. We'll do some fact negotiation and see if we can get you a ballpark where I'd be confident to tell you that you'd be looking around 10. Back and forth for about 4 to 6 months, and then they came and basically said, "All right, how's this?" I had a look at it, wasn't happy with it. My lawyer said, "Take it or leave it." That's basically where we're at. So I sent it around to the other legal teams. I said, "This is basically where I'm at." And I think the main thing was I had a conversation with my family, and I just said, "Look, they've come with me with a deal, with a plea bargain." I won't say a deal. Deal sounds terrible, but they came to me with a plea bargain. And, you know, my mum straight away said, "Yeah, take it, because I don't want to sit here and you run a trial by media and serve 24 or 25 years because you're sitting, you know, there's 6 of you sitting in the dock and the jury already knows the case, whether they say they do or they don't. You got Buckley's of winning it's going to be it's trial by media, which was a big thing. And I said, "Yeah, that's true." And my lawyer had said the same thing to me. He goes, "You want to try and get sentenced on your own. You don't really want to be," and that's how all the boys are. You know, they all tried to get separate trials as well, even in the bigger, you know, the ones that had heaps of matters. They all tried to get singular trials too. So, you know, my partner said, just be smart, you know, just be smart. If this is going to secure you, if we know that you're going to be home in 10 years, I'd rather that than wait another 4 years to find out that you're going to be home in 20 years. You know, and to me, time's time. Like, I'm already in jail for 6 years. I've already spent how many years before that? I'm in jail. I understand the system. I understand jail. I grew up in that place. You know, I wasn't in a sense of the word, I wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere. I knew the gravity and the complexity of the case. So I said, "All right, you know, if you guys want me to do it," the other legal teams got back to me and they said, "No problem. You know, we think that's a good deal too for you to take." Or the other co-accused said, "You know, if this is going to mean that you're going to get a definite date. You're going to go home to your family. Take it, And obviously, everything was above board. There was no way that they were going to get me on a stand or, it wasn't going to hurt anyone at all in the slightest. So got everything put in writing, got the plea bargain done up and signed up, and then that was it, yeah. And I was sentenced to 10 years with 7 on parole. So, and I'd already done 6 at this stage, but which was crazy. Like that was such a not good. It was a long time, considering the fact that we ended up pleading to, but it was better than I was expecting. But because I was on parole still, they didn't give me the full back date, so I ended up serving more time on it. But still, yeah. So that was how that went, and then that took me to 8 years to serve on the bottom.
And it sounds like in your case, that you and the co-accused aren't against each other.
Aren't against each other?
Yeah, like you're not. There's no argument between you, right? You're all still mates.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean,
in that case, you weren't accusing the others of anything.
Nah, no way.
Yeah.
Like in our case, for the main co-accused, we had no rollovers or whatever like that. Everyone just sort of got their time and did their time. But at the moment, it's sort of everyone. I've got 2 co-accused serving life. Others are serving 20. Outside, we're all on strict non-associations.
I was about to say, you're obviously not allowed to talk to them.
Yeah. And, like it's sort of, and everyone understands that, when everyone was sending letters as I was getting out and just saying, all the best, I guess. I'd done a lot of time, and I had spoken to boys throughout, and a lot of boys know that, when I get out, I'm pretty over it all, to be honest. And, I'd done a lot of time, done some hard time, missed out on my kids' births, missed out on their lives. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore, and no one expected anything of me anymore. So everyone was pretty happy for me to go home and just live my life. And even now outside, I don't communicate with any of my co-accused anymore, and not on bad terms. They just, I'm just on a different path in life, and the ones that are out are on their path with their families, but the ones inside, obviously, they've got a long time. So I've just put my family first now, put myself first, and that's the path I'm on.
It must be a big weight lifted off your shoulder the day you walk out of there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It is really interesting, and for me, because Joe was my life, I have some of my closest relationships and bonds from that place, some of my best memories from that place. In no sense at all am I glorifying that place or that life, because it only leads to devastation, which I've seen firsthand, experienced it firsthand. But personally, when that's life, coming out of jail for me was going to be more challenging than going into jail. When most people, they go to jail, it's a life-changing experience. For me, coming out of jail was going to be the life-changing experience. How was I going to deal with it? Was I going to be able to take life by the balls, so to speak? And, and I knew internally that I was ready, but it was a challenge. Definitely it was a challenge to come out.
Mm. Yeah, you're not coming out to an easy life. You're coming out now to start from nothing again. And I was thinking when you were talking then, if I go back to, we're more or less the same age, right? Mm. If I go back to 18 and less for me, I don't remember any of it. Like, you're just a kid.
Yeah.
But since then, you've only been out for 2 years in total. So it's like, yeah, it really was your life to be in there. And that's a way of life that's so different to outside. Even technology and all the what's popular, what's not, how people do things. I can't imagine it's, do you feel like you learnt a lot while you're in there about the outside world, or is it like nothing until you walk out and smell the roses? Honestly, nothing.
The world that I remember is not the world that I'm in now at all. That's one thing that it's a recurring thing that I say to people. Like, I got out to a completely foreign world. I was fish out of water. Like, it was crazy. And I'm still now finding my feet still, because the world is so different.
What do you think the things that have changed the most are?
Technology. Technology is a massive thing. I think people tell me COVID. Obviously, I don't know what COVID was like outside. I could only, from what I hear, but I can definitely understand how that was a massive contribution to the way society moves today. that whole debacle. But I think technology, I think COVID.
What did you think was happening in the outside world when you're hearing the stories about COVID, about military driving the street and people are locked in their houses and you can't drive more than 4 Ks away? You must have been picturing like Armageddon outside. Because new people would be coming in, right? They would be telling stories of what it's like out there or whatever. Like,
yeah, I just thought, what do you mean? Like, you got to get locked in and you got...
Yeah, like you must have thought the world was ending, you know? Like the stories that even you were hearing from the outside were like, they're doing what, you know? Like literally the military are driving down the road fining you if you leave your house, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, you know, it's funny because that's basically how I was living.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, now you're living like that too, you know? It didn't... That whole, I didn't get to see it. I think not being able to be a part of it, I'll never understand it. But, you know, I used to talk to it was tough. We had our own problems. I didn't see my kids for 15 months because we didn't have visits. We were locked in the cell for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. If you're in a jail that doesn't have a shower in your cell, good luck. I didn't know how my family was doing. I got a call that my daughter had contracted it. I didn't know how she was doing for about 8 days.
that must have been scary because you hear stories of people dropping dead from it.
Yeah.
And you like on the outside, we knew that wasn't really the case most of the time.
Yeah.
But on the inside, especially if you've got a kid with it, you must be freaking out.
Yeah, it was tough. You know, we had our own, they were trying to pressure us, you know, we had to get pressure to get the injections. And they basically said, you know, after about a year, they said, if you guys don't get it, you're not going to see your family. So I didn't want to get it personally. I'm the kind of guy, I don't even take a Panadol for a headache. I don't like putting things in my body. I never have. Not any, not about conspiracies, not about religion, not about that. I just don't like putting things in my body. I never have. So I was super against it. But when they threaten your family, saying that you're not going to get to see your kids, and I already hadn't seen them for so long, my family were basically saying, get that freaking vaccine.
I mean, they were doing it to us out here too. It was like, you can't go to work, can't visit your grandma. You know, everyone was getting pressured into it.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. But so it was a very tough time. Yeah, it was a tough time. I mean, we weren't getting, like I said, we weren't getting phone calls. We weren't getting time out of the cell. We weren't getting anything, any of our, and it was, we kept training in the cell. We kept reading.
Did they restrict your yard time or anything? Or
Yeah.
So you
sometimes no yard time for weeks. No fresh air. Like
people would have gone crazy, surely.
Yeah, people were going crazy. But I mean, it was like, everybody was powerless. Like everybody was powerless. And it was sort of, the things they were doing inside was just ridiculous. Like they had quarantine jails set up and they're taking truckloads of boys from one center to a quarantine center and they're all mixing. Like there was just I didn't understand it personally. So there was a lot of issues when they were trying to move groups of boys to different, and the boys weren't going. They said, that doesn't make sense. If you want us to go, you're going to have to unfortunately make us go. So there was some pretty hostile situations over that time. A lot of boys, struggled through it. And I mean, jail's tough as it is. Jail, you're already isolated. You already don't have, like we're in our cell at 2:30 in the afternoon and we're not getting out until 9 o'clock the next day. So we're already spending a fair chunk of your day inside a cell. You hang for that time to get some fresh air, to get a phone call to your family. And when you're not getting it, and it's not like they're going to tell you in 3 days. We don't know. They'd come around and say, we don't know when you're getting out, so just get comfy. And that was literally the script. They were telling us, just get comfy because we don't know.
So when you're locked in for 7 days, 10 days, whatever it was, what do you actually have in you typically in that cell to keep yourself busy?
So it depends.
Do they bring you books, like nothing?
Nothing, no. It depends where you are, what classification you are, how long you've been in for. So for me, during COVID, I was in a 1-out cell. So I spent a lot of time in a cell on my own because I was been in for so long and I had done.
Did you prefer that over having someone in the same
absolutely.
room for so long? Yeah.
I mean, look, if I went to a jail and a really good friend of mine was there, we'd probably go cellies and have a massive laugh. And sometimes time goes a lot quicker, but towards the end, I'd prefer my own space. You have your own routine and you really have to gel with that person. But a lot of people don't have that option. I think because I had established myself in prison over so many years, I had I was able to have those sort of luxuries. But I mean, for me, myself, I had a little kettle and I had a TV. And
What's on the TV?
free to air.
So just whatever's on free to air.
Yeah.
The cooking shows.
Yeah, so we have, like, in prison, a lot of us that have TVs will, we have a TV schedule, so we get locked in at 2:30. We'll watch the 3 o'clock, a cooking show. I used to watch a cooking show. Then I watch the 4 o'clock news on Channel 7. Then I watch the 5 o'clock news on Channel 10. Then I watch the 6 o'clock news on Channel 9. Then at 7, I watch Home and Away. And 7:30, it'd be like the series, Maths or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that'd take me through to my bedtime. But that was pretty much every day. But I'd still wake up, I'd train, I'd do my whole daily routine in the cell. So it didn't matter for me. I was going to do what I was going to do inside or outside that cell.
And so that extra time just meant more crappy TV shows and waiting it out.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of boys and the reality, the majority of prison population don't have those sort of luxuries. They don't get money in their accounts, so they don't get food. So they're waiting on their jail lunch that comes at 12, which is a sandwich. Their dinner comes at 2:30, and they're not getting food again till 9 o'clock the next morning. So they don't have a TV in their cell. They don't have a jug for hot water. So the reality was the majority of the prison population was sitting in a cell with a mattress waiting for 3 meals a day for months.
Yeah, shut up and deal with it.
That's it. And that was literally, that's the truth, yeah.
So you relied on your family, obviously, to have money to put into an account for you to get the food you wanted and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, I was blessed. I'm blessed. I get, it's only, you get $100 a week. That's you can put on your buy-up. So you put your form in, it's all non-perishable stuff, So I was just tuna and brown rice. That was my diet for half my life. Might treat myself.
You still eat it now?
Yeah, love it.
Love it, he says.
Love it, yeah. You go to my house, it's just pots of rice and tins of tuna.
Yeah.
It's healthy, it's convenient.
Yeah.
And it's just familiar. I'm just familiar with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much all I ate. But, I was blessed, super blessed. One thing I never take for granted, being able to, because I won't eat the prison food. Won't eat it at all. I got really, really sick.
Do they still give it to you and you can trade someone for something, or?
I'd usually just give it to the boys.
Yeah.
And I'm always usually a sweeper at the prison, so wherever I'm at, so that means I'm sort of do the meals and do all that sort of stuff for the boys, run around from.
So does working give you extra time out?
Yeah, if you work, if you're in a working jail or a working pod, then yeah, but I won't work. Like, I won't work outside. Why would I work inside?
Yeah.
That was my mentality, If I'm not going to work for someone, I'm not going to work for the system. So, I would never work. I was always just a sweeper, which is sort of the boys that have been in the jail the longest or have been in jail for a long time, understand jail. They're sort of like the delegates of the inmates. So we can, stay in. If boys get kicked out into the yard, they let us stay in. We'll, I might clean up the pod and run hot water for the boys and make sure everyone's all right. So when I'm doing dinners, there's usually a fair few of us that won't eat the jail food, so we just stack it all up and give it to the boys that are coming in off the street, or we stack them up and give them to the boys that just don't have buy-up so that they have heaps of food to eat. Because some people in there go starving, really go starving.
Do you think that's a mentality not common in prison? Because you watch prison shows from America, let's say, and no one's giving anything away for free. And it's usually the cause of the fights as well.
Yeah, no, in Australia or in New South Wales, I can 100% say that is definitely the mentality. Boys help boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And after being there for as long as you were, do you think they've got the prison system right? Do you think they've got it wrong?
So wrong.
What do you think they really need to work on? Because it doesn't look like it's changed for a long time.
No, so I mean, they've got things that they want to do, reformation and change it, 2030 models, and basing it off like the Scandinavian prisons where the recidivism's gone down heaps. But I don't think it's going to work. I don't think any.
What are the simple things they need to do? Like education or?
Education,
yeah.
Massive. Education is massive. They need to humanize it. Prison needs to be humanized, 100%, because everyone that's in there is a human. So you put people in a cage and you treat them like caged people, they're going to become caged people. And that's the same with growing up. Like we speak about how identity is usually formed, not designed. Same thing. You're pushing this identity onto people when all you see is violence and oppression, and that's what you become. You become what you see. So it's definitely, I don't think it's up to scratch at all. But that's just one part of the problem. I think there's plenty of room for
Yeah, there's always room for improvement, but the question is what actually, because, everything in politics and government, the bullshit they think's going to actually help never does.
no.
You've got to take advice from people that have been there. And to me, just an outsider looking in, it's always education.
Education.
Like, how is there not more education?
Yeah, number one. Well, I mean, look, there is always ways for improvement, but like you said, it's the decision makers, the policy writers, it's not lived experience. They need a bridge lived experience with, they need advisors. They need people to advise what will work, what won't work. But
surely they can do better food.
Yeah, well, I mean, the budget's huge. You hear the budget for how much it costs to house an inmate. I don't understand where the money
Where's the money going? Yeah.
Because it definitely doesn't.
Probably the land cost in New South Wales.
Yeah, probably. It's crazy.
Vastly gone up.
There's so much room for improvement. But I think the main thing is they say they're rolling out these trials. Okay, and the way that I see it is that the trials are experimental, and who the test dummies, they're humans. So you're experimenting on human life. So, the cause and effect, it's going to go really poorly, and there's going to be a massive, it's not like, we can just scrap the trial, it didn't work. You have to remember that they've implemented this trial, it didn't work, and now hundreds of people are affected, and they're going to be the byproduct of the trial. So you can't really just trial and error when you're talking about human life. But yeah, look, there's so much room for improvement, and it does start with education. There's the media that needs to be held accountable. There's so many different parts of fixing that problem.
So you're out now, and obviously, like you said, you came into a world you didn't understand. You definitely hadn't had acai before.
No.
But one thing I saw kind of flicking through, and it's a business thing that everybody gets advice from somewhere or has somebody that's a few steps or a lot of steps ahead of them that teaches them the way. It's no different to what brought you into crime when you were younger. It's no different in business, right? And two of the people, and I only bring them up because obviously they're publicly on your social media anyway. The two of the people I saw come up more than once, as in you weren't just with them once off. One of them was Low-Key, who's obviously very successful in business, not just in New South Wales, but globally as well. And Bill, who maybe for you, somebody who's walked in similar shoes. Were they two of the people that had an influence on you when you got out? And were they people you knew before, or you met them once you came out?
Yeah, so no, I only met Bill recently. So I already started acai and all that before I'd ever met Bill.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't know his whole acai story until we sort of caught up, and we met at an event, and he said, "You're the acai guy." I said, "You're the acai guy." And
it's like he's Melbourne, right? It's like the Sydney of Melbourne.
He's St. Mary's,
okay.
yeah. So
he's got a shop in Melbourne, yeah.
He's got it,
yeah.
But we obviously knew of each other through prison, but
never served together. I think
never
you just
served
met
together.
fresh.
Yeah, okay. Met fresh. Didn't know him. Yeah, I had already been open for a while before I had met him properly. So I was already established. He was already established, and sort of just had a laugh. And but Low-Key, definitely someone that I've known for a long time. Very close brother to me. I have a lot of respect, a lot of love for him, and his family. But he actually introduced the idea of acai to me. So look, he knew, he knew how I was driven. I think a lot of people probably didn't think that I was as driven as I actually was, because a lot of people, they'll talk the talk, but they don't usually walk the walk. So I think he just floated the idea by me, and then within 14 weeks, I was telling him, come down to the opening, and it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he's somebody that I'm sure people like when you were 18 needed to have around to look up to. Obviously, he was younger back then. I don't mean him specifically, but if there's 18-year-olds today right now that are in that crossroads in life, that they can't see somebody who's like them that's successful. I mean, he's definitely one of them in that
100%.
In that culture, in that space. I mean, he's killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right what you said. It's about the receipts. That's what we say, it's receipts. So Key's someone that he has a story, he's successful, and he's living proof of what, drive and discipline and, all these good values can get you. So it's living proof, and that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. I don't want to be just a guy that tells the stories and has this. I want someone to say, well, he's actually doing it too. It's not just facts. He's actually showing how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's easy to have good intentions when you're sitting in that cell getting close to release, but to actually come out and do it
100%.
would be so hard, especially when you don't have help or you don't have direction or, you know, for you had drive from your family, but some people don't have that either.
No.
But you said before, and because he's known you for so long, he probably knew you had that drive. The drive that makes people successful criminals, let's say, whether you end up in jail or not, is the same drive it takes to run a business or any other success, whether it be in sport or business or whatever.
Yeah.
It takes drive, it takes dedication, it takes boring routine, repetitive tasks. It's the same recipe.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you grow up around an area where you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you don't see people like Loki or like yourself now, there's a lot more people that are down the other road, down the life of crime, that you can go, well, they're like me. He's got money. I want to make money. That's a much easier joint to dot in a young person's head to say, I can achieve that, but I can't achieve this.
But
it's the same recipe.
Nail on the head, man. Like that's exactly what it is, word for word. Like that is the problem. That is exactly the problem. And, well, problem in one sense and solution in the other. But, yeah, like for me growing up, I was a footy player. You know, I played pathways and that was my life, playing footy. And I guess for me, what happened, how I ended up, you know, I always had a bit of a pretty tough upbringing too. Had a beautiful mum who loved me and did everything and gave me nothing but love, but grew up without a father and broken home, had traumas growing up. So I guess I had some demons deep down, but footy was how I identified. You know, and I played footy and loved footy. My whole life was about footy. My role models were all footy players. And I had some pretty bad injuries pretty young, you know, a couple of shoulder reconstructions, a knee, a foot consecutively. And that was pretty much my, you know, my life of footy done. I didn't know what I was going to do after that. All I knew was footy. So it was either footy with my mates playing footy or with the boys on the street. And, you know, naturally fell into that. And then the progression just went from petty crimes into more and more serious stuff. But it's exactly the same thing, the drive, you know, and I was a competitive kid. I didn't show it as much, but I had that, you know, internal, and I always had a fascination by like high performing units. I loved high performers. I just thought, you know, high performers and people that, you know, excel at the highest level have a unit, have an environment of high performers. They also have all the resources that high performers need to make them high performers, external stuff I'm talking. And I was so driven by that. I used to watch, you know, at training, we'd go and see the first graders. They'd be training at their gyms and they'd have strength and conditioning trainers and all these people there to hone in on their skill and their talent to really push them. And I was so fascinated by the idea of high performing units and environments. And I always wanted to be a high performer. I always wanted to be, you know, excel at anything that I do because I wanted to be a part of that unit. And after my footy thing went down and I was starting to get in a little bit of trouble and, you know, I was fighting a lot, I wanted to join the army because that's another high performing unit, you know, and applied before I turned 18, but I put in a thing to say that, you know, I wanted to do it, and they had like an advisor, and they basically sent my exactly when I turned 18, sent my thing out and sort of came back that because I had pre-existing injuries, they didn't want to take me on because I had so many surgeries, you know, and that was going to be a liability, and I didn't pass the medical. So, I mean, you know, that was just something that I wanted to do because of the environment. I didn't really want to be part of the army per se. I just wanted to be part of a high-performing team, and I couldn't be part of a high-performing footy team. So, again, I'm just back on the street, and I wanted to be part of a high-performing criminal organisation, I guess. So, you know, I just had the drive, had the, you know, the potential to do anything that I wanted to do and really give it my all. And that was always the way I was. So, you know, even the way I did jail, like I did jail like I wanted to be a high performer in the way that I do jail properly. You know, I wanted to train like a crazy man every single day and destroy my body. And I wanted to eat the same thing and eat lentils, you know, 10 lentils for breakfast and just be so disciplined because that's how I love to live. I literally love to live, you know, just an elite way. And that's why now, like, I just still want to be able to, you know, I want to go into corporates and execs and high performers and work with athletes and work with people in high performers because I believe in that environment. So I think when people see, you know, when people see results when they see that it's achievable, 100%, because I had no role models other than footy players. Once the footy players weren't, I was looking at the mafia, I was looking at, organised crime figures, because they were at the top of their game and, they were elite performers and they moved differently. And that's what I wanted to be. So I think, that's why a big thing that I say is I've never changed. I'm the same person. I just make different decisions. Like, I'm still me. A lot of people, and I like to challenge a lot of people's, the things that they say, because in a good way, in a healthy way, because for me, I definitely don't like to follow the status quo. I like to give people options, because when everyone's sort of saying the same message, that becomes everyone's belief. If you have to do this to achieve this and you have to do that to achieve that. So, a lot of people would say, for example, when you come out from prison, you got to leave. You can't come back to the same environments, which I get. And for some people, that's what they need to do, But the way that I always sort of framed it, and the person that I built within myself was, that's just an external thing. You know what I mean? Some people can't change their environment, so you're giving them no hope then. Their parents can't pack up and move them. They don't have money to move to another state. So what are they going to do? If you're going to say you have to go home, you have to move, you can't hang around the same friends, you can't live in the same area because you're going to go back into crime or back into drugs and alcohol, whatever it may be, then you're putting all your dependence on changing the external. You know what I mean? So for me, I challenged that. I said I can go back to the exact same environment with the exact same friends and do different, because I make different decisions, because that's my stance, So I think just having that drive to be exactly who you need to be, who you want to be, and doing it, and then showing the next person that I don't have to change. I don't go to a corporate meeting and, wear a suit. I still wear, hoodies and jackets and all that stuff. I'm still me. You know what I mean? I just make good decisions, and I make better decisions, and I just apply my potential into sustainable things, things that can build. Like now I say I want to build a legacy rather than an empire. I want to build things that people are going to be talking about my name when I'm gone. My kids are proud to, carry my name. That's my goal. So it's definitely achievable, and I just think that the way that people package it up makes it a little bit less achievable. Whereas when they see someone like Key, Key gets around on his own. He'll go up to the boys and get a photo with them, and, he just gives love everywhere he goes. People see him and they're like, that guy, he's like me. He looks like me. He sounds like me. He dresses like me. He listens to the same music as me, and he's driving a Bugatti on the street with proper on the side of it. Like, if he can do it, why can't I? And that is like, that right there is the answer, to have people like that. And that's why, and he pushes me a lot to get my story out there, to be, because he knows how I am, and he knows my values and my beliefs, and there's other boys that are behind me, and they say, you got to keep doing it, because it's coming from a place of real care and real love. And, I want to see change for the better. I want to see positivity, because I hate suffering. I hate to see someone suffer. I suffered for so many years. And if I can, bring change, and if I can bring help, why not? That's what I'm going to do. So I think definitely having people challenge the status quo, challenge the confines of this change, I think that's definitely going to be a big step in improving going forward.
I think it's so important as well that message comes from somebody that, obviously we're talking about the younger generation right now, but they're only going to listen to a certain type of person. They're only going to listen to people they look up to. Some politician telling them something like, fuck.
They used to do it to us.
And so, when you're a young guy and you are maybe in that stage of either no real crime yet or petty crime, to have somebody that you look up to say to you, actually, there's another way to do this. You can be just as money hungry. You can still be you. You can still listen to music, dress how you want, but you can massively reduce the risk of going to jail
100%
by doing it another way.
Who doesn't want that?
And who doesn't want that? But I think, and it's probably one of the benefits of social media as more as it is a bad thing. Social media obviously was not a part of your life until very recently. But a big change on social media is that, and a lot of it's fake, which is probably where I think it loses credibility, but social media gave power to a lot of young people to make a lot of money. And that was sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. But who are the typical types of people? They're snotty kids that, in America, they've got rich families or whatever. Like, again, no one's going to listen to them. But what it did show that it was at least possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's undervalued the importance of seeing somebody like you, whoever you are, achieve those things. Because for blokes, I feel like it's pretty simple. Like most guys at 18 are sitting around going, I want a Lambo.
Yeah.
And I want a mad watch and I want to make money, you know. But what they're really saying is I want to achieve something that gives me respect for myself, that makes people respect me. And I think that street credit is the way they think it can be earned. But that street smarts that you need to be successful in that life anyway is the same. It's the same recipe you need to do anything else, to be good at anything.
It's just, and it's the value, you know, it's people's values. Like you said, they want the Lambo, they want this stuff. What's the value? And it's that achievement. You know, they want to achieve. That's all just a byproduct of that value. But yeah, I agree completely. But I mean, you know, that's kids, that's youth. You know, this applies to corporates, this applies to execs, this applies to anybody in life. You know what I mean? It's the same sort of, it's the same strategies, it's the same systems, the same frameworks, you know, that high performers use or high performers need. And it all comes from this, it's all internal. You know what I mean? Like I spent so many years in isolation in Segro with no TV, no radio, like nothing external to distract me. And I think it was in moments like that, like I never had this light bulb moment, you know, to say, oh, I need to do this and that. It was just slowly I thought to myself, you know, I can do literally whatever I want to do. I just need to make the right decisions and sort of that find purpose, because I knew I had the potential and I just needed to know how to use that potential. So
Need someone to show you how to use it.
Yeah, like, well, I didn't have anyone to show me.
Did you ask? Were you somebody who knew how to ask for help, or is that a new skill?
Yeah, look, would never ask for help ever. And I think when people say ask for help, they literally mean, hey, I need help. You know, when I say help, it's like advice on whatever they're doing. You know, it's not like I need help. I'm in a dark position. I'm in a dark place. I need a hand out of this. Help is like...
Yeah, help is seen as a handout.
Yeah.
When people say, do you ask for help, they think we mean, can I borrow $100?
Yeah.
That's not asking for help.
Like
yeah.
someone said to me, how do you do this? And I sent them a YouTube video. Like that's help. You know what I mean? Like watch the YouTube video and find the answers. Like it's just support is a better word. You know, I sort of feel like if someone's... I'll try and support everyone that I can. If, you know, any information, there's so much information out there. That's one thing I learned. Like I learned literally how to make an acai business out of YouTube and standing around acai shops and watching social media videos, trying to capture a sneak peek of the settings on their machine, like things like that. I literally had nobody to ask how to do a acai shop. Literally nobody. I didn't even know what it was. It was an idea and I just researched it and I became a student in that, what it was. And I saw the potential in the business model, how it could be scaled easily. And that's why I pursued it. And, you know, now people will ask me, how did you do this? I want to do this. I get a lot of DMs about people that want to do an acai business and how do you do this? And I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to help them, but it's not necessarily help. They just want, people these days, they want to answer.
Yeah, they want a shortcut.
Yeah.
Hey, it was simple, just do ABC.
That's exactly right. So, you know, I don't really like to do that myself because, and I think that's what I found hard about coming out too. Everything's convenient. Everything's at the click of a finger these days. You know what I mean? You want food, you click a finger. You want this, you click your finger. Everything's convenient. So people are looking for those hacks in life. But I'd rather give someone not the answer, but the vessel to get to the answer. And I think that when people sort of start framing their I need help as in that's what you're going to get, it'll be much easier for people. Like, I don't need help, but maybe just can you support me or put me?
Yeah, hey, I need to learn this. Where can I learn it?
Yeah, that's people will. It's easier to do that way than, you know, like even someone maybe that's struggling in a time, like instead of going up and say, hey, I'm struggling, just be like, hey, you know, is there something that I can do, something that I can watch, just to support. And I think it takes that sort of stigma out of it because then you still have the power to fix the problem yourself, which a lot of men, they want to be able to fix the problem themselves too. They don't want someone to fix their problems. So I think if you can just open that door to people and say, yeah, this is how I did it, like from learning this or reading this or like go do that, then it still gives them the power to get the answer themselves.
Yeah, especially as you start succeeding in business especially, but you end up gathering so much speed that you can't learn everything.
No.
Even if you wanted to.
Exactly.
So you have to recruit help from people or get a more direct road because you have no chance otherwise. No different to... You know, I'm assuming the weeks leading up to your release, you weren't sitting there going, Purple Prince, we're going to be acai.
No.
Mate, did you have an idea that what you were going to do, or was like, I'm just going to get out and figure it out?
Yeah, look, I've been out of the game for so long, off the streets. Like I said, when I'm in jail, I'm in jail. So I had to get out, put my ear to the ground and see what was making noise. So look, you have to remember, when I came home, like you said, I didn't get out to this, this life. I came home to kids, bills, responsibilities. I didn't have time to just sit and say, I'm going to kick back on the beach and put my feet up and go for nice swims and get back into life. And I had to get back into life very quick. Like, because in the next day I went to sleep, I woke up and life started with responsibilities. So I didn't have the time. I had to make some serious sacrifices, and people got to make sacrifices. I'd missed out on my kids' whole life, missed out on time with my family. And once I got into this society, I was working on it, I had to sacrifice time with my family. I've been away with them for 8 years now. And I spent another, 3 months away working to build this business up, because that's just what you need to do. That's just what you need to do in life. And I didn't know what I was going to do at all. I just knew I was going to win. I knew I was going to win. And I knew I wasn't, that's basically it. I knew I was going to win, and I wasn't going to fold, because I'd set that standard for myself, and I knew who I was. I didn't rely on anybody. I didn't rely on anything external, because I survived with nothing external. And that was it. Once those gates opened, that was my opportunity, and I don't take opportunities lightly, especially when my co-accused are going to die in prison. So definitely just use that.
So when you started off, you bought the truck, came up with a name. How was all that? Had to build a website, or what were the things that were like harder than you thought it would be?
Oh, look.
You got customers straight off the bat, I saw.
Yeah, man. But
that was smart marketing. That wasn't given to you either, to do a giveaway like that, everyone lined up.
Yeah.
It's marketing.
I think, look, I got the truck custom built. I went and had a look at so many different trucks and the cheap ones that you can pick up, and I just didn't feel it, you know what I mean? And the way that I sort of looked at the whole business, I said, all right, look, if I can start at the top, then next time, the next one or whatever I do when I start to scale, I can start backwards, work backwards, rather than I don't want to start short and then realize all the things I should have, invested in. I should have done these things. I'd rather do everything perfectly and then work backwards, going from there. So I definitely did probably a little bit too much research. The thing with that,
you got started pretty quick. So
super quick, man, super quick. Like, I didn't stop literally. But I think the thing that overwhelmed me and the big struggle that I did have was, in jail, you don't get choices. You know what I mean? Like, there's no options. So that's why you can use all the 100% of energy to make decisions about yourself, because so many decisions are done for you. You can't get to choose what color you're wearing. And I still do that now. Like, my wardrobe is gray, black and white, and they all go with each other. So I don't have to think what I'm going to wear, it all goes together. And when I'm going into this business and I'm online and I'm searching and Googling, there's just like 25 options of the same thing. And it was just so overwhelming for me. And I was reading reviews, sometimes 3 a.m. I'd still be reading reviews on the same machine, just a different brand or a different number, a different model. And it was really overwhelming, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist too. So I'd hate to make the wrong decision. You know what I mean? So that's always my mentality. I like to be super informed on the decision that I'm going to make and give myself the best shot. So I was very overwhelmed before the
How choices. Good were you on a computer though? Like,
terrible.
You literally did someone give you a computer, your missus, I'm assuming, or was just like,
no.
Use the internet? Like?
I was on the phone. My sister got me a phone, and I just, like, obviously I know how to use Google, I was around at school. I didn't have social media, and I wasn't going to have social media.
Were you surprised how impactful social media has become?
Look,
because Facebook used to be like literally just your actual friends.
Yeah.
Now it's just everyone.
My last social media was MySpace.
Yeah.
And Bebo.
Bebo.
That was the last time I had social media.
With your top 16 friends probably still sitting there,
Yeah. So mine was top 4. I only had 4 friends.
Yeah,
there,
good.
So. But that's literally context. My last social media was that. And when I got out, I saw people, that were on social media, and I said, I'm not doing this, because this is everything that I'd stand for against this.
Being so open and
like I was always
showing your life.
Yeah. Like I was always in the shadows. Like when you're living that life, you don't want, you're changing cars every couple of weeks and you're living super low-key, you don't want anyone to know what's going on. So I understood very quickly the power of social media and digital marketing and exposure and engagement and all these sort of things, and I knew 100% I was going to have to do it for Purple Prince, because it's that market, And
It's culture building now. It's how you're building a fan base. Yeah.
so when I did start it, obviously I went through all those overwhelming moments of I got everything done, got everything sorted.
Were you somebody who recorded the same thing 20 times, or and you're worried about posting it, or you just went, I'm just going to hit the ground running? Record it, post it.
Nah, I was super worried, man. Look, to be honest, I just at the start the thing was I'm just going to make the Purple Prince account about Purple Prince. It's going to be a business account, just do really organic like stuff like that. But then the more I was working there when we first opened. I was working every single day there, 7 days a week, big hours. Excuse me, and people were I was getting really good. Like I love the customers, I love being around, and I was never like that, but I just took a liking to being involved in people. And
do you think it was because it was yours though?
Yeah, for sure.
You could stand in that truck and be like, I did this. No one put this here for me.
Absolutely. It was the first business I've ever owned. It was the first anything legitimate.
And that customer hands you that money and you're like, this only happened because of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like literally the moment was on that opening night, we had like over 1,000 people there. Like it was ridiculous, crazy. And I was like, I literally remember just walking out of a cell. Like it was my last memory. And I just looked around and, it was not just the support, but I had a moment of, achievement and accomplishment. And I said, I knew I could do this. And it was just when you see results, like you would know in business, when you see results, it just gives you more of a drive and you just back yourself even more. So definitely I understood that social media was going to have to be a part of this, and I was going to have to put my face out because people are going to associate me with the brand. And from there, I started to get, good engagement and started to build relationships with customers and, started sponsoring the footy clubs. And then I was coaching my daughter's footy team, and from there, I became heaps. It was a good bridge between the community and me reintegrating back into the community. So it was like no one really knew my past. They they got to know me from Purple Prince. And then when they didn't know my past, they had already liked me.
Didn't matter.
It didn't matter. They actually liked me even more. But from there, I started to see how important that personal brand is. And that's when I was like, people love this. If I can use this as a way to inspire or, because I hate to say it because I almost sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but the value that I have to offer, the value that anyone that walks a path like me and succeeds on the other side has to offer is huge.
It's life-changing.
It's life-changing value, absolutely. And I sort of thought, if I can add value and do this, and I love it. I was a mentor in prison to young offenders in my last 2 years. They took me to a young offender jail and I was a mentor. And I actually did a video. It's on my YouTube channel. I went out to see one of the boys I mentored, and he's now got a really successful panel beating shop, and he's doing really well. And, I helped him heaps with his mindset and his goal setting and all that sort of stuff. And to go out there, a couple of years later and see him doing well was so rewarding. So just off the back of that, I thought, I have to learn how am I going to get my face on camera? How am I going to start talking to? And I just did a couple of videos talking to my phone in the car, and I didn't get anyone criticizing me. I got cool numbers, and I was like, all right, and thank God, because if it didn't go well, I probably would have never pursued it, to be honest, because I didn't really need it to build businesses. This was just something separate. So it went well, and I just kept at it, and it, kept progressively getting better, and I started to get some good engagement. And the DM started from people, and now I'm going out to events and people are coming up to me and they're talking to me and they're saying, man, thank you. Like, I love your content. I love this. I love that. It's, I love your message. So, and it's so rewarding, that's why I want to remain really authentic with what I do, because it really comes from the heart. And like I said, it's just value, like take it or leave it. You know what I mean? It's free game at the moment. And that's how I got into side business, from free game, going on YouTube, looking on people's social media. There's information there to better your life. Take it or leave it. If people want to make fun of it and throw hate on it, it's not my problem.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had these moments where people ask you questions and you think that you could find this answer yourself so easily, but people are almost too scared to even think of their own answers. They will just want to ask someone that can tell them straight away. But that's probably the bad side of social media. But the good side is what you're using it for, which is showing people who haven't even had that first thought yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's different if somebody thinks, I want to start a business, but I don't know where to start, so I'm just going to ask someone.
Yeah.
That's different to somebody who's gone down a life of crime who hasn't been told yet, hey, you can put the same energy into something else and have a better outcome and not have to miss out on your family and all the rest of it that comes with it. Maybe some people are just hell-bent on having that life. You know, obviously there's that as well. But for people that are only going down that road because they just don't know any different, you know, there's an opportunity now, especially with internet or just the world the way it is, you can literally achieve anything by doing anything. Yeah. You can own garbage trucks and make enough money to do whatever you want in life.
That's it.
You know, or you can be a chick who's doing Botox injections or whatever. Like, everyone's got to hustle now. The opportunity is endless. We're also in a world where people spend money like crazy on luxuries, really. You know, everyone's crapping on about the housing crisis, which I'm sure you've heard about since you've been out. But the reality is we just love spending money on stuff, especially in Sydney, of all places. You know, so it's like that's the perfect opportunity. There's a starving crowd for almost everything.
Yeah.
You can sell shoes. You know, there are how many kids now that are young teenagers that are just flipping shoes online and making tons of money on it.
Good on them, man. Like,
and I think as well, people shouldn't get caught up in like, is this the one idea? Like, just start with something. Doesn't have to be the end thing you do for the rest of your life.
100%. I'm not going to be the acai guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be that acai guy. It was a...
Hey, never say never.
Never say never. You know what? That's
Could take over the world, bro.
That's true, man. But I mean, that's exactly right. And people ask me, they go, oh, you know, I've got some money saved up. I want to start a business. Like, what should I do? Like, you know, do something that's going to make money. Like, people, everyone's so focused on, oh, I want to, you know, I see this guy in this industry. It looks cool. It's a good life. I want to go into that. You know, but you don't see the journey that it took him to get there. It might not even be achievable. So I think business changed my life, man. Business changed my life completely. It's, you know, it's the language of the world.
And failure is such a big part of it too as well. I think people are scared to fail and they might try one business and it doesn't work out. I've had tons of businesses not work out. Some on my own, some with friends, you know, but it's like sport. Just because you lose the championship once doesn't mean there isn't another season coming.
Yeah.
You know, and you just need to stay on it.
Yeah. Like, just, you know, obviously you just try and mitigate as much risk as you can, as you know, being in security. But like, you just make the right decisions. Like, people have tried to open acai shops and people think they're really easy to open. They're really not. There's a lot of, you know, they're not easy to open. And people want to, you know, buy into them. They want to just pop them up and they think they're going to run themselves. You've got to remember, still, you have staff is obviously a massive
it's still a business.
It's still a business. There's a lot of, you know, it's a normal business. So it needs to run. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and just mitigating that risk and trying to make the best decisions at the right time. And that's how jail is too, you know. Like, there are times in prison where, oh, you know, I want to do something. You know, I'm frustrated. You know, I haven't spoken to my kids for a couple of days. I'm tired. I'm sore. I want to hurt someone, and I have all these, you know, some guys annoying me, and I have to think on the spot. Like, this is a high pressure situation in a high pressure environment, and I've got literally split seconds to make a decision. You know, you want to train your mind to almost be able to make the correct decision at the right time and make that decision count. So to come out and then apply that to business, it's like, I'm not going to have failed businesses because I'm going to make the right decisions to make sure I have successful businesses. Doesn't mean that they have to be generating massive income, but they will be successful in their own right. And that's just to get at a successful outcome depends on what success looks like. But for me to have a successful outcome, I will always have successful outcomes, because that's just, they're the decisions I make leading up to that. I know that I will always back those decisions, and you know,
everything's either a lesson or a step forward.
That's right. Yeah. Like, I can't, you know, I've overcome so much and I've made bigger decisions than a failing business in my life. You know what I mean? Look, and perspective too. Like, when you see things that I've seen and been involved in things I've been involved in, like, if you lose a bit of money on a business, like, it's all right. Money comes in.
Yeah, start the next one.
Yeah, like, just keep going. You know what I mean? Or, like anything, if you don't, you're in a bodybuilding thing and you don't get first place, like, it's all right. You just do it again. You know what I mean? Like, perspective is everything as well. And I think you just, like you said, win or learn. You just keep going. Yeah,
obviously you've got a very unique perspective because of the shoes you've walked in, but everybody has a unique perspective to some degree. No one's done the same thing as anyone else. And it's about using those lessons, you know, to predict what can happen the next time I do these things and not waste a good lesson, you know.
Even better, use someone else's lesson.
Yeah.
Like, that's you know, that's the main thing.
That's every book.
Yeah.
Every book is a book of someone else's fuck ups.
Right. Instead of having to learn the hard way, look how someone else did it and just do it. And that's like a piece of business advice I give to maybe someone young, maybe not even young. Business has no limits, but look what's working and do it better. Look what someone's doing.
But start by copying something that's already working.
That's exactly right.
If you're not very well versed in business, starting with some new crazy idea is not the way to go.
No.
Just pick an avenue you can learn about that's already working, that already has people that want to buy it, and just learn on the fly. Exactly. And then over time do something different. But I think, like you said, just copy someone that's already doing it and then make it your own.
That was
you didn't invent Acai, right?
I just saw
but it's your personality.
That's it. I saw how crazy it goes, and I just you'd be stupid to not do it, but you just have to do it better or do it the best, or that's just copy the blueprint and make it better, make it your own. And that's it's so easy when you think of it like that.
So every business needs bookkeeping, accountant, payroll, taxes, GST, all this stuff. Once you learn all those basics, the next stage means you got to learn something new. What do you do to learn something new? Are you a book reader? Are you a hardcore YouTuber? Do you just lean on people you already know and try and get to the next stage with them?
Look, those things were obviously like tax and things like that. I had no idea, man. Even sometimes now I'm sitting at the accountant and I just have to say, can you please repeat that? Because I've literally got these things, honestly. I've been out for just over a year, and all the things I've learned within business, I tried to read books and stuff inside, but I can't. I'm no good at theory. I'm a life learner. I have to see it to understand it. I have to do it to believe it. So I like to understand the concept of it, but it's just words at the end of it to me. So to come out and, sit with accountants or sit with someone and listen, and I'm just a listener. I listen to conversations. But to answer your question, YouTube, man. All the answers are on YouTube.
They are, yeah.
And I've got a sick relationship with ChatGPT at the moment too. So, that's a big thing in my life. But I'm just a learner, bro. I think if you're an avid learner, and you have a love for learning, then I think the answer's just around the corner.
It's true. But it's having the persistence to constantly search the next answer, because as soon as you get it, there's a new problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the dedication that can run people tired and maybe get them to give up. Because it doesn't matter what success you find in life. There's always, it needs to be bigger or better or faster or more or international or whatever thing you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You never get to a point where you just sit there and go, I'm done. And so as long as you're comfortable with that, you'll do all right.
I think as long as that's exactly right, and that's that striving to always do better, and that's a good thing to have. I think if it aligns with your values, that's the main thing. You know what I mean? For me, I'll be honest. A lot of people, they say, what do you want? And it's a bit confronting when they first hear it. I say, I want money, I want fame, I want power, and they'll think, and we're programmed to think that those three things are bad.
If you said that in another country, they wouldn't look at you weird. But in Australia, you get looked at for it.
And why is that? Because if they align with my values, because money, I don't value money. I like the value of money because it buys stability, it buys opportunity, all these things. Power, I can use power to create influence, to create a change. Fame, again, you have a platform. If they align with my values are things like that. So to strive for money, power, and fame and these things, that's not bad at all. We've just been programmed to think that these things are, for negative, but they're not. If they align with your values and what you want out of life and it's all positive, then that's 100% should be what you're striving to achieve. Yeah,
we live in a world where that is the value. You can't do much in life without money and time.
Absolutely.
And the two go hand in hand. I'm sure now that you're a business owner, there's been days where you've done something in the middle of the day that most people have to wait till the weekend for.
Yeah.
Like a doctor's appointment, all those things that everything's booked out every weekend because people are stuck without freedom, because they're stuck to a job, because they don't have financial freedom, or and all those things that come with being a business owner. You have to have those things.
Of course.
Look, I don't say you have to. Some people are probably happy with, I don't want the stress of any of this. I want to go 9 to 5. Don't even think about calling me after 5 o'clock. I want to go on one holiday a year on a budget. Some people love that. I credit to them. Sometimes I wish I was one of them.
Look, that's their value. They value consistency. They value comfort.
Yeah. True.
And whatever aligns with your values that's what works for you because that's your values. You know, your values, and that's the main thing. If it aligns with your values, so be it. But I mean, like, I listen to some things on YouTube about business and stuff, and they go, if you're getting into business for money, don't do it. And I think, well,
What hippie saying that?
yeah, like, okay, so how about you give me your course for free then? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. You have to be doing something for, obviously you're going to have a passion. You have to be finding things like that. But if you're going to get into business, you need to be making money from it. Otherwise you're taking time away from, you know, from your life. You're losing out on experiences. And I mean, it's your value. The money will buy you stability. It'll give you opportunities to invest in more businesses, to scale businesses, to have freedom, whatever that looks like to you. So I think in this day and age, what I've sort of come to realize, my own opinion, is that the society's sort of been programmed to be scared to have big goals and big dreams and back themselves, which concerns me. I'm not here to change the world, but I think, you know, I believe that everybody, like you said, is born good, also born with potential. It's just the environment they're born into, whether they can live to their full potential or not. But I think people should definitely be striving to own businesses, to create opportunities for themselves, to create legacies for their family, because I think everybody is definitely destined for greatness if they truly believe it.
Yeah, look, I want to finish on a strong message because I think it really sums up today well, and that is, if you are somebody who's making money on the streets or going down that path, but you're only doing it because you want money, fame, success, there's so many other ways to do it.
Absolutely.
And if you have that drive and you have even the skill set that you're doing it well down that road, it's not too late to pivot because you already have everything. Like, that is what an entrepreneur is. If you listed out the skills that the best gangsters in the world have ever had, all the way to Pablo Escobar, they were incredible entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're one of them, if you're somebody who wants to take the risk, that can take the pressure, take the stress, all those things happen in a life of crime, but they also happen in a life of entrepreneurship. And if there's one thing you have to harness in business, it's managing risk. So if you can reduce the risk of going to jail, hey, people go to jail all the time in corporate world too.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's consequences. Like, people in business, if you're an entrepreneur, you're making, you know, calculated risks where the consequences are not life, or the consequences are not, you know, death or life in jail. They're not the consequences. So if you're willing to make decisions and where the risks are life in jail, or the risks are long times, or the death, and this sort of life, then how could you not be willing to make risks that are much less for a sustainable outcome? You know, it's
that you can do forever.
Like, it's
and not have to look over your back.
Yeah, like, it's great. It's literally, like you said, it's the same concept. It's just values, bro. Just for me, what I've realized, that it just comes down to value. What do you value in life? And you know, do those decisions align with the values or not? But yeah, bro, I agree completely. If you've got that that drive, you've got that entrepreneurial mind, you weigh up risks, because in crime you weigh up risks every single day. But if you have a more sustainable outcome with less of a consequence, to me it makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate
you being here.
Shout, man.
Take it easy.